over time that one of the very fundamental pillars of democracy is the rule of law. In a country like Nigeria, well, for well over 2 decades, we have practiced a democratic system, of course, with several election cycles in between. It is only natural that emphasis is continually placed on the place of law, particularly as we inch closer to the next round of elections, which is in 2027. However, at this point in time, as we've also seen with several other election cycles before now, it's always a difficult task flogging political parties and their actors to line before, during, and after the election. As it stands today, we're seeing so much of the law, in some cases, outright divergence between the law and political practices. Incidentally and unfortunately so, even a body like the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has been caught in this very vicious web. We'll spend some minutes looking at the implications of these developments in reality, as well as how Nigeria can, in some way, wriggle itself out of this menace. Joining us to have this conversation is a public affairs commentator as well as a legal practitioner, Monday. Eje, I would like to say a big thank you to you, Barrister Eje, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you for making our time.
So let's get started. I'm not going to ask you if you have your PVC. I'll leave that to your conscience.
No, I have my PVC.
Oh, great. But I'd like us to look at this blow, as it were, that is between the law as we know in Nigeria and politics. It appears once it's an electionary period, as we have right now, politicians would ride roughshod, so the civil judiciary, and then the whole situation also becomes complicated, or far more complicated, given the conflicts of, if you like, judgments and orders that we find from different courts, and so on and so forth. Is this a practice that is sustainable?
Well, it has been sustained because for as far back as this republic came into being, I've seen several cases of rulings, counter rulings, judgments, counter judgments. In fact, by way of practice, personally, I rarely cite cases from election petitions when I do my briefs.
Why is that?
Because I just feel that I would rather cite cases based on other facts, based on other sentiments, than probably go into cases that flow from election petitions, because you will always have one deviation or the other, one alteration or the other, maybe because of the personalities involved, either from the bench or the bar, and then maybe also because of the fact that we have always had to amend and rejig our electoral laws every election cycle. So I would rather not, if you cite such cases for somebody like me, you'd be almost sure that if you're on the other side and you cite them, I can definitely get you something that will probably contradict or alter or create an exception to what you want to impress on me. So I don't take the risk. Political cases are just political cases.
That's interesting. Juma is going to jump right in shortly, but I wanted to follow up with this other question, all right? Because whether you like it or not, one of the guardrails, so to say, of a democracy like we have in Nigeria is the rule of law. We keep talking about the rule of law, but it appears we don't move past the principle of it. We don't get to see the, if you like, the meat of it. We don't see the bite of it. By your own assessment as a legal practitioner, someone who has followed this Fourth Republic, like you said, since 1999, for example, is there a rule of law or sort of semblance of it in Nigeria today?
Okay, anyway, the general rule is that once you have a justice system where somebody that is aggrieved can present his case, using layman terms now,
right,
and then somebody against whom a case has been brought or instituted is also given the opportunity to put in a defense or to be heard, and then you have a situation where someone who is not, who is presiding is of such nature or character that he or she doesn't have an interest in the issues to be determined, then generally you have the rule of law. The other thing we can add to these conditions is that, of course, the laws of the written laws and the equitable principles be allowed to prevail. So if you have this in place, then definitely you have rule of law. Now, when you have situations, but I know that it's commonplace for the layman to say, okay, when you have a situation where maybe from your own perception or perspective, justice has not been done, you say the rule of law has been breached. But you see, once these 4 or 5 criteria are in place, then the rule of law is in place. Now, what comes out of the activation of these principles is what gives us concern as lawyers and should give us concern as citizens. Now, if you look at the political situation, you realize that, yes, through the grapevine, from citizens, from public opinions, sometimes newspapers, even conventional television houses and so on, you must have heard 1 or 2 politicians complain about the kind of judgments we get from the courts, the kind of intervention that is expected of the courts, whether they have exceeded that or not. I think these are just what makes us want to think that rule of law is being breached or it is not breached. And it all now depends on the perspective from which you are looking at it from. I've heard politicians sing the praises of the judiciary in a week and in a month, and about maybe 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 months down the line, they sing songs of like dirge. They seem to sentence the judicial system to death and begin to mourn it and lament and say all sorts of things as if they have never ever said a good thing about the judiciary. So definitely, it now depends on the players, the picture we want to portray of what our system gives to us or what we get from it that really matters. So if a politician stands up and tells you, we thank the judiciary, just know we got a judgment that day. And then if he stands before the screen and tells you, today the judiciary has embarrassed us, the court did this, did that, just know that that day the ruling or judgment of the court did not favor that person. But one thing is sure, and I keep telling even my clients these things, once you subject yourself to a judicial process, know that you are having a 50-50 scenario.
So you've got to accept whatever outcome.
Yes, whatever outcome that comes. So it's always better for disputing parties to sit down, discuss, reconcile, make compromises here and there. If you consider the Labour Party crisis, consider the PDP crisis, and the ongoing ADC crisis, I begin to wonder what the issues are that persons who are ordinarily supposed to be matured, who have had experience with the judiciary by virtue of what they do, because our politics is basically a politics of the judiciary.
Right.
Apparently. In other climes, people win and lose elections and then they go to sleep. They wait for the next election cycle. But in our own country, even preliminary issues that people should ordinarily see that, okay, this man outsmarted me, he applied this principle or that principle, he had this quality or that quality, he had this group or clique or caucus with him, maybe that was why I lost out. Let me see how I can strategize and fit into or create a system. They don't do that. They rush to court, they file this process, and once you come to the court must hear you.
Right.
The court is bound to listen to you and then reach a decision one way or the other. And that's why, for example, when they said the court asked that ADC should come forward and defend an application for injunction against them as to whether or not that application should be granted or not, and they rushed to the Court of Appeal, and they are now at the Supreme Court, I begin to wonder, you only need, in that scenario, the rule of law played out, because somebody has filed an action against you, and the court said, no, instead of me to make this pronouncement based on the representations of the claimant, let me wait and listen to those against whom this action has been filed. And based on that, they were called forward to come and, say one or two things, whether that application should be granted or not. Yes, we understand the fact that, okay, there are sections in the new electoral act, and I doubt if the new electoral act was already amended at the time. That amendment has not been concretized at the time. It was still an ongoing process. But if you want to apply the current amendment to that situation, I understand the fact that, yes, the act and even judicial precedents, because that particular section that talks about not dabbling into internal party affairs, yes. That particular section is a section that flowed from decisions of the courts, because generally, and it's not just about the political parties alone, those decisions and that section, they go way back to history. Now, for example, if you are a member of an association, maybe a community association, and then they put a constitution in place, whatever happens to you there, because you voluntarily joined that association,
no cohesion.
There are guidelines, there are bylaws, everything, you must be bound by it. Whatever they do to you there, you can't bring it forward ordinarily for litigation purposes. The courts will only look at the constitution to see whether it was breached as per your complaint. But once you voluntarily join, then you are telling the whole world that I'm agreeing to go by what happens internally. So it's based on that. That flow was what impacted on our election process. When the courts over the years have said, look, we won't dabble into internal party affairs.
Deal with it yourselves.
Deal with it yourselves. Whatever comes out of it, if you go to primaries and you lost, remain in your party. If there's a change of structure, remain there. Whatever happens, remain there. But if somebody now comes forward and says, look, the constitution of our party was breached in this wise and in that wise, or the electoral act was breached in this wise and in that wise, or the constitution of the of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is over and above every other law, was not complied with, the court must look at it and make a pronouncement either ways. So when people are screaming, oh no, the court shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have said this or that, I don't blame the courts. The courts are simply doing their duties, because if politicians decide to be matured enough to handle their internal issues and disputes without involving the judiciary will not be involved. There is no way that they will be involved. Now, the PDP scenario, after all the back and forth, one Congress here or no Congress there, oh no, the South-South zone has not had state congresses or zonal congresses, so you cannot proceed with the National Congress and all of that, and eventually the court said, okay, don't proceed, wait till we determine this suit. Now the simple question is, if I know, because it's all about it's power play within the parties that is submit to the courts to determine eventually. If I know that my national chairman is going to spend only 2 years, and after that 2 years, there must be a convention where we'll appoint or elect another party chairman, all I need to do is just to be patient, sufficiently patient enough. If that is going to cause us crises that we will not be able to recover from, you must make up your mind if you want democracy to work or not to work. Making it so much of a litigation process or procedure is not what is going to ordinarily make it work. We must learn to reach compromises. Now, those things were not done. Litigation went full hog. Those who felt they can or they could act in contempt of court did what they felt they could do. And there is no way you will act in contempt of court and then you will still expect the judicial system or the courts to grant you any favors. It's like you are operating with tainted hands. Equity will not allow it. You are disobeying me, I've made orders, you are disobeying my orders, and you still want me to grant you reliefs, even if you are ordinarily entitled to. Since you have not punched yourself of that contempt, then it denies you of certain reliefs. It's just the way it is with the law and equity. Now, you didn't do that. Today, we have decisions from Supreme Court saying a particular faction of PDP should be the recognized faction.
Right.
Just like we now have in Labour Party stating that a particular faction of it is valid and should be recognized. Now, those who have been fighting all along, they disappeared out of some personal and egoistic graveyards. They potted or they have moved into other parties. I was just hearing this morning one NAS member who moved from one party into another party and now is going to another party. That's the kind of mess of a set of politicians that we have. They keep making us scream out loud, argue and quarrel on social media platforms, giving misleading information, putting misrepresentations out there. So many representations, so many. One, I listened to two retired, I don't know if they are directors, I think, I'm sure one of them probably retired as a state commissioner of INEC. I think the other one was director of litigation or something. When they came on air and they were talking about certain provisions of the act and then certain conducts of the court, I was surprised, because there is a particular one that I held in very high esteem. Very, very high esteem, with impeccable integrity. And I will not just by one act or incident reach a conclusion that he has lost it. But for somebody to come on here and tell you that, oh, this new act says or has been amended in such a way that a political party can print ballot papers, for crying out loud. If you want to criticize, criticize. No system is perfect. But criticism has rules. Bring down the facts the way they are. State the good sides of these things. State the bad side and make your recommendations and suggestions. But you want to talk all the time, directing your communications and conversations and representations to certain quarters with some sense of bias, is what some of us do not like. There is no system in the world. If you want to pick the United States of America system and criticize it, you have the whole plaza of books and materials from your criticism. But they are copying. Why is it that any time we want to talk, how will somebody say that kind of thing? The same provision, word for word, was used when we were still in INEC. You didn't see any problem with it. Now, for some of us, maybe nobody even procured him to say that. Shocking enough, maybe nobody did. But because he's probably angry or something about, because that's a safe conclusion that I can reach in the circumstance about certain things, maybe political or economic or something.
That's your own opinion.
Yes, that's why I said my own safe conclusion that I can reach. He said what he said. But till date, I've not even heard any apology from him. Now you make the system so toxic, everybody wants to talk. I give it to him, he's a lawyer. But then, sometimes we write our briefs because of the angle from which you want to do your case. You will probably forget that one letter is in a particular section. You didn't advert your mind to it. You just do your... It has happened to me severally. You just write your arguments and all of that, and then you drop it, come back later to it, read through for purposes of correction, and you will realize that you have misinterpreted a section or the rules of court. It happens to everyone.
That's dangerous.
Yes, it's dangerous. But that's what bias can do. For at every moment you do anything from an extreme position, it happens when a lawyer, for example, has put himself in the case. He has partially taking the place of his clients. He's passionate, he's over passionate, and then in that passion, my client was visited with this and that, and you go off board. So a situation like that does not give room for people to reach a decision that rule of law is in play with respect to political matters. Everybody wants to, for us, we are practitioners. If you want me to do an analysis of a bill for you, with a view to what you should kick against and not kick against, you have to pay me for those services. But what I realized happened in the course of the amendment of this bill is that these men who are matured in the business they are doing, very matured people, some of them speak like lawyers when they discuss their political matters with us, even more than some of us. They know these things. A bill is being amended. You didn't say anything about it. You did not get a team to read through and analyze for you to present a position either on the floor of the house or at a public hearing. Everybody was just screaming, electronic transmission, electronic transmission, electronic transmission. A huge distraction from the main issues. Now the act has been amended and people are coming from right, left, center to analyze and say they should go back and amend or re-amend. I don't get it. It's a lazy way of thought. And these people I just referred to are part of it. How can you sit down? A former director and a former commissioner who are already used to the position of the law by virtue of your trade. You sit down, you watch all these things play out, and then you come on air to vilify who? It's a self-indictment. So once they proceed to the courts, and you see, the beautiful thing about law is that there is nothing that is absolutely new.
Right.
You can actually predict your case. But that prediction is limited by one factor. Which is where the school of thought of the judge is. If the judge believes that by all means possible, he must do justice. By all means possible, he must do justice.
Within the confines of the law.
No, that's what I'm going to. By all means possible is not within the ambit of the law.
It can overstep it.
It can overstep it. It happens. We see them every day. You go to court with your beautiful arguments, the law supports you. But the court does not feel it should go that way. The court will say, oh, there's a dispute before me by the rules of substantive or substantial justice, I will have to hear it. Even when you cite cases from superior, that's the nature of the judge. There are some judges you go before. They work with the laws strictly. Even if they saw the crime committed and they bring the case before them and you don't prove it in line with the rules or the laws in place, they will not give it their nod. No, there will be no indictment. You won't get anything. They just throw it away. Now there are judges who do a blend of both. And sometimes, some of these judges or justices, it's not that they were bought, it's just who they were. Just like our friend that I talked about earlier on. But if you are a counsel and you are on the other side, oh, you will say, oh, that judge has been compromised. Your client will say, oh, the judge has been compromised, and all whatnot. I had an experience some time ago, and I told the client, I said, look, this thing you are saying about this judge, that's not how the judge is. The judge can say anything in the course of proceedings. Some of those things she will say, you will think she has already reached a decision against you. She takes position, he will take a position, he will enter into the arena. But that is that judge. At the end of the day, judgment will come out. You'll be shocked that you that was knocked the most is now the one that the judgment went in favor of. Now, but there are some other extreme scenarios where lobbying takes place. And we must call a spade a spade. I think it was on this platform that I said, oh, out of every 12, you have a Judas.
Right.
So we have some Judases in quotes on the bench as well, who play ball with some of the Judases we have in the political landscape. And that's why once you are in a party and there are issues and there are disputes that need to be resolved, reach a compromise. It's just no executive will stay more than 2 years.
Right.
Do your work, do your background. You can imagine Labour Party for how many years? Imagine PDP for how many years? Since that time, over 3 years, when they said, oh, it was time for the South, and then I will not take it, and then, the North got the ticket, and they started this battle. It has been until recently.
And this will bring me to this question, in line with all what you've said. Now, do you think courts should strictly interpret electoral laws or consider political realities and public interest?
Well, for electoral matters, I don't see where public policy reasons for decisions will come to play. Really, I don't. Because even the courts over the years have described election petitions as sui generis. They are in a class of their own. They are strictly construed in line with the provisions of the Act and sometimes the subsidiary legislation, which are the electoral guidelines. So anything outside it, they don't entertain it. For example, if you are supposed to file in 2 days and you are coming the third, fourth day, before now, what I know is they might not even ordinarily attend to you, or you are supposed to do something, you didn't do it. They throw it out. It's purely technical. And then we've discovered over the years, because this issue is actually a very pertinent issue, and it's good we discuss them from time to time. Over the years, we have realized that people just come forward with frivolous petition. They know that they will not win. They've looked at the laws. The laws do not give them a room to win, but yet they will still file. They will still go to court. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they said one of the candidates from Lagos State had been made a consensus candidate by their GAC.
Right.
And I kept wondering, it's not that these guys don't get angry now. It's not that they are not aggrieved. We saw what transpired between Ambode and his benefactor the other day. They are back together. Somehow he's back into the system. But they are never at dagger's drum. Your head must be off. I must be the one. You want whatever they seek to do, they manage themselves. They don't take themselves to court for somebody to now begin to decide who is this and who is not this. They avoid it. Most of all pre-election matters, and I don't think I can recall any coming from that axis. But you see all these other axes, and you are a leader, you contest elections every election cycle. Every election cycle. You don't want to know whether the circumstances surrounding that period is ripe enough for you to win an election. You don't want to allow somebody to go for an appropriate time for you, or to use that person as a ladder. And then you go to court, and the courts take a decision, and we begin to complain. We shouldn't. Now that Labour Party is at rest, we'll watch and see how things will pan out. NDC is calling out. NDC is a party. You see, I really don't imagine people of this caliber gathering themselves and dumping themselves in a party that has about 10, 11, 12, 13 litigations already ongoing. How do you want to navigate that murky waters?
So you think it's counterintuitive?
It is. How will I do that kind of thing? Considering the fact that you already feel or have the impression that somebody is working against you somewhere. I don't buy into that hypothesis anyway. Oh, they are planting moles. It's not that it's not possible, but I don't buy into it. It's a lazy way of thinking and talking. They are planting moles, they are doing this, I don't buy into it. What we should do, I had a conversation with one of my senior friends, and then we're talking about what was that question he asked me again? It was a legal question with respect to this ADC matter. And I said, I wonder the people who advise them. Because he mentioned, they have a solid team of consultants and lawyers who are advising them. And I said, are you really sure? Because if they had waited at that federal high court, by now they would have had a judgment one way or the other, whether against them or for them. That has not happened. That has not happened. They are still at the Supreme Court, waiting for a ruling of their appeal that was dismissed at the Court of Appeal. You are insisting that the judge will not take the matter. All they needed to have done is to approach the court and state their case and have these things dispensed with. Maybe, because politicians are very wise people, maybe they have a plan B and they are using this as a decoy. It's possible that maybe at the 11th hour, they'll just spring up with something and then all cases terminate, or they even ignore those cases. But we cannot, it's painful to me to see situations where matured adults, not kindergarten, not 10 years old and below, cannot sit down and reach an understanding. Today, party executives are being imposed here and there, everywhere, in this same ADC. Are being imposed everywhere. And those who are aggrieved by virtue of those impositions will still go back to court.
So it makes a bad situation worse.
And then you stand up and say the judiciary is interfering.
Well, now that we've talked about the judiciary and interference time and again, I mean, your association, the Nigerian Bar Association, not too long ago said, look, going forward, lawyers should not take briefs that bother squarely on internal politics.
How will that be a
political parties? What's your position?
Even the person who said that thing is biased, and we know where his sentiments lies. Even him,
that was the official position of the NBA.
What official position? Somebody walks into my office and is aggrieved, and you are telling me not to. Is that position, does it not contradict the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic?
Do you think to that extent the NBA got off on the wrong foot?
If they said so, they heard. You cannot tell me not to take a brief. But if you say so, then it means that every murderer, every kidnapper, every thief shouldn't take a brief.
But again,
even some of them whose their decisions have represented people that Nigerians have tagged as corrupt.
Before now.
Yes.
Going forward, that's where
it will not stop. They are still representing them. The bulk of them are across all these political parties. Is it not lawyers that are representing them? Is it not lawyers that are representing them? And then you come and tell somebody not to take a brief? When did we get to the level where we guard ourselves as lawyers? A learned seal took up on the system with respect to a particular provision of the Electoral Act that imposed fines on lawyers. I think maybe that they are same section 83 or thereabout. That says, if you file a suit and then the suit is based on maybe internal party affairs, you'll be awarded cost 10 million naira against the lawyer and not less than 10 million naira against the party. The learned seal went to court on that issue. Why? Because you are restricting the practice and you are restricting access to justice. People don't go to court for fun. Those who go to court for fun are not in numbers. They are few. So if a person walks to your office, would you rather allow them to bandy talks about than to allow them to go to court and vent their grievances? All I need to do as a lawyer is to have advised the client. It is the client that should sue me for either professional negligence or instigating. You can only proceed against a lawyer on that ground as a client. The NBA can proceed against the lawyer if it is discovered that you instigated litigation. A matter that's not supposed to go to court, you now instigated and all that.
I hear you lawyers do that a lot for personal aggrandizements.
No! These are exceptions to the general rule. Because like we say, the principle applies. Out of every 12, you will see a Judas. So we are not saints. Absolutely, we are not 100% saintly in the profession, in the legal profession. There are bad eggs everywhere. And I've encountered some of them. Very terrible in practice. So we have them. But that is not to say, like we used to say in law, that instead of wrongfully convicting one person, it is better you set 10 free. So instead of disallowing those who have genuine matters or cases or grievances from approaching the courts, it's better for you to allow everybody to go to court.
But what we're hearing, just to again straighten this in terms of perspective, is that the NBA has taken the pain to look at the preponderance, as it were, of frivolous.
The NBA is not in the position.
Therefore, now says that look, let's not make an already bad situation worse. We've got to step on our pedals at this point in time.
The NBA is not in a position to determine whether a case is frivolous or not. It is for the judge or the court to determine the frivolity or otherwise of a matter before them. And that is why the Act provides that, look, don't take internal party matters.
Right.
That's the court now.
Not the NBA.
Not the NBA. That's the law. Courts don't take these matters. So a lawyer from your office, when you look at the case and the case borders on internal party affairs, don't file it. Don't go to court over it. It's normal. You have that obligation to discharge. The system has already penalized you by saying that if you bring before us a matter that borders on internal party disputes, then you will be fined. You will be awarded cost will be awarded against you for 10 million. This position has already taken itself. But in brief writing, how you couch your reliefs and your pleadings is what will determine whether that matter is internal or not. For every matter that is political, that is from an NGO, an association, a voluntary association, it's always predominantly internal. But what you request for and what you plead is what will make it to take it off that ambit. But beneath it, ancillary to it, are internal party issues. If I say, oh, you elected somebody chairman, or you conducted Congress without giving INEC 21 days notice, and they are supposed to comply with that notice, what I'm saying in essence is that that internal party activity that you carried out, you didn't carry it out. Yes, there must be an element of internal party affair in it, but it is going to be in a lower proportion. I think this situation it shouldn't even be a matter for argument or even a matter of provisions of the Act. That is why we are belaboring this matter.
But is the NBA being challenged?
If you come to court and you are not alleging that a constitutional provision was breached, and you are not alleging that the constitution of your party was breached, and you are not alleging that the Electoral Act was breached, then you don't have a cover. Don't come. Ordinarily, that kind of case from the very beginning is frivolous.
Dead on arrival.
Yes, because you already know before these provisions there are decisions of the courts already in that regard. So the key thing is for you to sieve through what is before you and reach a decision here and there. And it is good for the system. Even though it's already, we have our own practice and we have acts and laws and regulations that guide us. They took care of these things already. And like I mentioned, one of such is if you instigate it. One of such is if you are negligent and your client can prove so, and you have so many others. So if a party with or without these provisions comes before you and say, this is what they do. For example, your constitution says it is only the national legal advisor that should appoint lawyers for your party. And then the chairman proceeds to appoint a lawyer for your party. and somebody comes and says, come and go to court for me, it is neither the chairman or the legal advisor.
Right.
It is the financial secretary that should appoint lawyers, because it is his office that will partake in also co-signing the check that will be used to pay him. That's you shouldn't.
You know, I'm just curious, listening to all what you've said. I want to ask, what are the dangers of conflicting court judgments during an election cycle? Just being curious.
Now, it depends on the stage of the election. And we have a recent example. Let's work with that. PDP were in court. They had their cases here and there. One of the parties was before a particular federal high court judge. Another party was before another federal high court judge, but the same issues, different parties. Now, both of them said, defendants, this congress or convention you want to hold in Ibadan, don't hold it until we determine this suit. The Ibadan people stood up and went to one high court in Ibadan there and got, I don't know what it is they got, and proceeded with the convention.
But they got an injunction.
Exactly.
They proceeded.
But they got an injunction.
That they should continue.
I will not call it what it is.
What it
They got
is.
an order allowing them to continue.
Yes.
Okay. This is conflicting. Now, it is for me as a lawyer representing the party to advise the party properly. Look, these three courts are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. These two in Abuja made their orders before this one made the order. These two in Abuja, this one in Ibadan cannot set their own orders aside. And the one in Ibadan now cannot determine the issues that are before these two in Abuja. So please, let's take action. In one of the southwestern states, they had that kind of situation at some point where there was an injunction. They didn't go to procure. They just simply told themselves that let's wait till the court decides. It's like you having a plot of land, you are there working, and then you wake up one morning, you saw a court order pasted on one of the buildings you are constructing, making far-fetched restraining orders. Your name was not even there. I'm telling you actually a real-life situation. The name of my client was not on that process. It was against unknown person and one other person. But of course, we are the ones on the land working. And what do we do? My client said, what do we do? You know, ordinarily some lawyers will tell you that since our name is not there, let's continue working. Yes, some lawyers will say it. But I told myself that this thing can end either ways. Our name is not there. One, let us go and join. Two, let us stop work. Because if you don't stop work and we join this suit and it turns against us, we have wasted money. So let's wait. So we paused. Well, for years, for about 3-4 years now, we left the place like that. I won't bother us with the other facts. Now you have this scenario and you proceeded. There is an SAN, NBA president is talking. He did not see that there was an SAN that acted in contempt of court.
Is that the person of Turaki?
Yes. Why didn't they proceed against him?
Who happens, by the way, to be the national chairman of the
Yes,
party?
that acted in contempt of court. You see, let's stop playing lip service now. Let's stop playing lip service and looking for scapegoats. There are lawyers there. In that camp, they have a legal advisor. What did he tell them? To proceed, right? And the consequences, like you asked, is at the end of the day, those orders will be resolved. And you that acted in contempt will lose out, which is what is happening to the other faction, without prejudice to the matter that is in court. Because I don't see how anybody will encourage you to act in contempt and disobedience of a court order.
Incidentally.
So all consequences, the consequences, if you feel you have the capacity or ability to approach your own high court and then make your high court to give a particular ruling or decision in your favor, the appellate courts are there. The Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, they are there. They are waiting for your cases. By the time you get there, they will determine it. They will set aside the one. In fact, that High Court, I think, set aside its proceedings and every other thing, flowing from these other judgments and other orders that came. But the court will tell you that maybe at the time I was giving that application came before me, I wasn't aware that there are cases in so place. I wasn't aware that there are cases in so that is, it is what it is. So when you give conflicting orders, you overheat the political system. When you overheat the system, you make it impossible, you make it difficult for issues that could quickly be resolved to be resolved. If that order did not come and they were unable to embark on that convention, maybe they would have taken the advice of Saraki, the former Senate President, Bukola Saraki, who had advised that let's set up a caretaker committee and reconcile our differences. Then for the ordinary man, when there are conflicting judgments that have not been resolved, when you go to court, this one will cite this one will cite this one. Of course, the judge will always give a decision either ways. Then you can now move upstairs. But at the end of the day, everything is going to be reconciled.
I was going to ask you a question. I mean, whether you like it or not, regardless of what side of the divide you're on, the NBA apparently now has been dragged into the fray. When you look at the NBA today, given this particular position of saying that lawyers should not take briefs that border basically on internal affairs of political parties, has it not become the case that the association has manifested some elements of partisan bias?
Well, bias is a matter of impression. How you feel or what you get, what is communicated to you by virtue of somebody's conduct or not. I won't say the NBA. I would rather say certain persons
representing the NBA.
Everybody has a bias. Eventually, everybody, if you probe us, everybody has a bias. There is that thing that is triggered in you immediately when an issue comes up that makes you begin to interpret it in a
But the expression of that bias is often the concern.
For example, I think it was last year, there was supposed to be NBA convention in Port Harcourt.
Right.
And they said, there is an emergency rule there. And then NBA says, we feel this emergency rule is not in line with the laws. We move our NBA convention from there. We move it to Enugu. They are forgetting that there is a Supreme Court judgment that talked about a lot of things that were happening in Rivers State. They didn't go to vacate that Supreme Court judgment. Did they go to do that? No. Many of those things that they were supposed to correct were not corrected. You see, whether we like it or not, like we said when we started our conversation, once you present yourself before a judge, whatever comes out, take it. Avoid it. If you can, avoid it. If you cannot and you go there, be ready to take anything that comes out. So immediately they got themselves there, and the Supreme Court said, oh, the House of Assembly ought to have been properly constituted. 4 people cannot do this cannot do this one cannot, let us do this, you can't work without this, go and do this, and it stated all of those things. It becomes a judgment. It becomes a pronouncement of the highest court of the land. When you go back, go and comply, it now forms a basis for an impeachment, which they were not thinking could happen. And I think that those who would probably have carried out that impeachment would have carried it out and hell will not fall. They will carry it out successfully, nothing will happen.
Even against the
so even the impeachment was a saving grace And then you take that kind of position. You know, there are certain positions you need to be neutral over. We have cases of killings and kidnappings everywhere. They are not in the front burners for us as a country. We just mention them in the headlines, in the newspapers, and we put them behind us. They are not at all. We have other serious and weighty issues. The welfare of lawyers are there. We are not concentrating on it. It's not what we should go on national TV to talk about.
As a country or as an association?
As an association now. The first one that borders on insecurity is as a country.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When people go to protest and demonstrate, you see them demonstrating because of one political interest. I told a senior friend who came to my office, I said, look, your generation should live for us, please. Because he kept on talking about change. He's a client. He was talking change. And I told him, I said, if the change you are talking about, sir, is for the man that is there to go, for another man to come from your own generation, I'm not part of it. The change that I will be a part of is for your generation to go and rest, and my generation to take over. I'll be a part of that change. That kind of protest and demonstration I'll go for. But you see, they will come out and they are doing content here and there, making noise over some political vested interest. I don't get it. Which is what some of our associations are playing around. For some political vested interest, you tell me that I should not take a brief. There was a time my association came up to say, oh, any opinion, once the NBA gives an opinion, renders an opinion on an issue, no lawyer should render a contrary opinion, I say, for this country. How? Under the same regime.
But isn't that supposed to be the case, really?
How will it be the case? Am I not a citizen before I became a lawyer? Shouldn't I have an opinion on an issue? Is a membership of an association servitude? If not that they make certain things compulsory, some of us won't even participate in some of the activities. But they have made a lot of things compulsory, and that's why we are participating.
Does the law compel a lawyer to, by all means, be a member of the NBA to practice in Nigeria?
Yes. Yes. You get your seal of practice from the NBA.
Right. Yeah.
So you pay them for the seal. You paid your
dues.
Yes, you pay your dues. You pay your. They manage the payment of practice fees and every other thing. So you must be part of them. But beyond that, if you have your opinion and your position, you shouldn't be gagged. Because once we start doing that, once we start making statements like this, we are acting in the same way those we are criticizing are acting and behaving. Oh, social media, they shouldn't gag it, they should not do this. Cyber crimes act is being used against the media, is being used against people who are speaking against the government, and you are telling me I should not take a brief. You are telling me that I should not talk if you have said a thing. What is the difference between you and the people you are speaking against? So these issues really they are deeper. They are deeper. The lawyer has the right to represent anybody. And anybody who feels aggrieved has the right to approach the courts. So once you start making laws restricting people's access to the court, it becomes an issue. And that's why the courts over the years, once we make a law and we fail to oust their jurisdiction, they are hostile towards that kind of law. Mm-hmm. And they look for ways of circumventing it. Because people must be heard. Grievances must be resolved. So once you get to the arena where NBA should be challenging some of these provisions, like I said earlier on, if that is the position, let us not represent thieves now and kidnappers now, or murderers, or those who steal, those who have those petrifying fingers, who steal public funds as if who behave the way they like. No, let us not represent them. Many of them, their monies and progress and success is linked to some of these men.
So you're saying there is so much of hypocrisy on the part of the NBA too?
Not the NBA as an association. on the part of some of the handlers of the NBA.
But can we separate the handlers of the NBA from the leadership of the association itself?
Exactly.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, the handlers, of course, the leadership form is part of the handlers. But they will come and go. The association is a body on its own.
Led by
So we
people at the time.
cannot know, or how will I call it now? We can't crucify the whole association because of this. Who vetted the comments or the speeches? Did they bring the speech to Congress or to the convention to approve before they go to read them? No. So people just sit down and feel, oh, this is the best position for NBA, and they do it. I don't know of any formal procedure for rendering opinion on behalf of the NBA. I just feel and I know that, if I'm the NBA president and I feel what has been done or said is not appropriate in the circumstance, I just stand up and talk and say the NBA has spoken. That's all.
Is that appropriate?
Well,
if
there is no law.
the president speaks, for example, is that not the official position? Of the
Exactly.
association?
That is no law prohibiting him to speak. But you can't now speak in such a manner that you are telling your colleague not to take a brief.
Well, let me ask a question. Just being curious, like we said, with all of these loopholes, lacuna in the judiciary, and of course the handlers that you've mentioned, is the judiciary, or will I say the court, really the hope of the common man? Really, if you look at it in that frame now.
Well, you see, these big guys, they have their own ways of playing their own games. Remove them from the picture. The judiciary is the hope of the common man.
If you remove them from the
Remove them from the picture.
Okay, so
If
for
we
now,
shut our eyes to the kind of things they are alleged to be involved in, if two poor people go to court, definitely justice will prevail. But where the issue is if there is somebody by the side who has an influence over somebody, then you might begin to have an issue. But two ordinary laymen approach the court and present their case, and definitely the court won't have a choice. They will do justice to that case, and in that scenario the hope of the common man is restored. But if these big guys are there, I don't know. I really don't know. So if you have a what we call a big man in this part of the world against a small or common man, you could have issues. But yet again, those issues will only come from the angle of the Judases that are in the system. But we have very wonderful judges, who will not do injustice deliberately. And I want to believe that there are more than those who will deliberately do injustice.
Then that leads me to another very concerning point. If you look at Nigeria today, would you say, as a lawyer, someone who's very, very familiar with the laws, that we probably have, if you like, this gap, all right, in our laws, and then we also have some sort of brokenness of some kind, for want of better words, in the judiciary that is leading us to, that has led us to where we are today. Because if you look at the way political parties and actors carry on, it's as if there's this reckless nonchalance with regards to the law. Nobody's afraid of consequence, no remorse, even after you have deliberately circumvented or even outrightly broken the law, for example. What do we blame those sort of factors on?
Just by the time we are done, read Dele Farotimi's book. You will get very.
So go back to that book.
You have to go back to that book. You get the best of pictures that you want.
I think
but
you
the
want a
truth is,
little bit of your own opinion.
the truth is, no, I'm going to render.
Maybe you can summarize.
I don't want to forget recommending that book. Look for it. Maybe you can still get copies online or something. Now, the situation that we have is a situation where, unfortunately so, some people can do things and get away with it. Nothing will happen. And I'll give an example. You see, these are our military men, these are our soldiers. Mm-hmm. They will look you in the eyes and tell you, especially those ones that are a little bit up, go to court. Even if you get your judgment, you cannot enforce it. It's recklessness in its highest order. It's the reason why a Yerima can stand and challenge a Wike.
And you don't see that Wike was out of line?
No, it was. I don't want that to even take our time. It's a stale story.
Exactly.
But that is the level and dimension of recklessness that we can see. It is the reason why politicians, like in my state, helicopters were flying everywhere when one particular guy was contesting for re-election. Shootings were ongoing. Video clips and all of that were out everywhere. And he was declared the winner. When he was so declared, you will be wondering as a citizen, that if you go to court and the issues get to court, they might upturn it and so on. But you see, like I said earlier on, the judge could even probably see those things on the TV. Mm-hmm. But if you don't prove them in court, what will happen? He will not give judgments in your favor and against the perpetrators of that act. Somebody needs to come up and prove beyond reasonable doubt that this situation, and that is where the problem lies. Those who have capacity, sometimes they suppress evidence. They can go to your community and just lock you inside and burn you up. It happened still in my state. Set a woman ablaze, a political leader in her community. She was burnt with the house. This is where we are. In fact, some people believe in their contacts and connections and their standing in the society to such a point that they can take a decision to commit murder. Willfully, and then go in for some time. In fact, before they even go in, it will be war. That case needs to be before a judge that cannot be compromised. I don't want to call names. We have that kind of situation. One that killed her husband. There was nothing that was not done. The judge said, okay, based on what is before me, this is it. Even the security system institution that investigated it received some knocks in the course of the proceedings because they were compromised. These are
knocks from the judge.
Not from the judge. And the judge saw through the compromise. So, and we saw what eventually happened when they released the last list of is the amnesty or presidential pardon. That name was there, and after so much outcry, the name was I think deleted or removed or something. So that is the kind of country we are, and it's not only here. In other climes, it happens. Even in those countries where we feel they have the best democracies, they happen. In fact, they are even worse. Because in some of those countries, the president has the right to directly even recommend people for certain judicial appointments. Oh, this is it. And then their own bias is funny. You know, they call our own corruption and compromise. They don't call theirs that way. Somebody will just tell you, I belong to the school of thought of this, of that, of that. And when that case comes before them, they determine it based on the school of thought that they belong. And it is law. So, but they will tell us that, oh, this, that, our own is. But you see, it is what it is. People, if you have what it takes, you can be reckless. But you see, the beauty of the, I've heard of a scenario where there's this particular criminal matter. They assigned it to a particular judge in FCTL. So the judge commenced the case, you know, The other party felt, no. This judge is not fair to me. And then, before the matter even started, the matter was taken back. It was taken back on a Friday. By Monday, it was returned back to that court. Now, the alleged victim in that case understands that that court is one of the courts that cannot be compromised. So the alleged victim is keen on having that case determined in that court. While the alleged perpetrators, those that have been arraigned for the offense, it's a financial fraudulent case, want that case out of there, and probably they want to locate a Judas. But you see, because capacity equals capacity, that judge will still have to decide that case. But yet again, for me, I'm in doubt if this incident will not lead to some form of bias. In which case, let me leave that. But you see, this country, the summary is you can do anything and go away, get away with it. Just know how to do what you know how to do.
There's the argument, again, let's use your term now, school of thoughts, that look, our democracy is young. Before now, you will hear terms like a nascent democracy. Therefore, we're still learning the ropes. Let's not put unnecessary pressure on ourselves. I will get better over time. America is marking well over 270 years as it stands today. So why shouldn't Nigeria also enjoy that level of fairness, build one brick at a time, instead of having to railroad ourselves into something that's not realistic?
My brother, I think it's a matter of Nigerians. We are basically liabilities to the country.
The citizens?
Yes, it's not about how long we've had independence. It's just about our nonchalant attitudes to issues of patriotism and to issues of having a better country. Nigeria is a good country but has a very terrible set of citizens. They don't, you see, I was telling, I had one conversation with a senior friend over the weekend, and we talked to some point, and I told him, I said, look, even your family members will insult you and excommunicate you if you hold certain positions and you don't come out a billionaire. For example, a civil servant, they just said they increased some things for them, and I was seeing 100 and something thousand and all of that. A civil servant who earns about 100 and 200,000 naira per month, and who drives a car of about 20 to 30 million naira, for crying out loud. Are we not jokers if we want to begin to insult the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as if it is the President that is our problem? We are jokers.
So the issues are deeper than we realize.
Someone is working. You are earning 100, this 100 and 200 I'm even mentioning is huge in some of these ministries and parastatals.
But they have other...
Go and check. They don't
have other benefits.
Okay.
So by the time you do an aggregate at the end of the month, you probably have no idea what that could come to. Again, depending on the level of the civil servant in particular.
They pay house rent. Their children go to school.
All right.
Do you know the kind of school their children go to? Their children go to school. Some of them, schools where they pay millions. There are some civil servants in this country whose children are abroad, whose school fees are being paid from the ministries and departments and government agencies. The cars they drive, they can't pay for them. The houses they buy and they live in, they cannot pay for them. The real estate sector in this country, how many private persons are able to purchase the kind of houses you hear with the kind of prices you hear? We are just jokers. Most of us are criminals at different levels, wanting some form of miraculous or magic change. I sat down and I did a lot of thought at some point in time, and I reached this conclusion, and it has not changed. We can never, I keep telling people, those who I told about Goodluck Buhari analysis to, they no longer argue with me. They just read my post and they pass by. They see my opinion, they pass by. They will watch this video. If I share the link, they will not say anything because they've actually seen it. That if we, and I will repeat it here, if we continue to behave the way we are behaving as citizens,
not even as leaders now.
What leaders now? How many are they? How much do we even think these men can steal? We have money in this country. The theft is monumental. And for the country not to have crumbled totally, we get money. We are a prosperous country. And if we continue to behave the way we are behaving, after this president, the next president will come, situations will get worse for those that it will get worse for. And we will now look back and say Tinubu was a better president. Go and write it down. Regardless of who assumes the position of the president. Regardless, I repeat again, of who assumes the position of the president. And they know, these guys that are parading themselves over, they know. They know that that is the position. So they will just go there and do the thing again and leave. For the benefits, not because they want to change anything. They will not change anything. They cannot and will not. Change what? Some of them are already wearing skirts, throw skirts, I don't know what to call them, up and down. What would they change? With litany of cars that their salaries cannot buy.
Let me just put you on the spot at the moment now. Do you think we have a strong opposition party against the ruling or progressive
Which
party?
opposition now? All of them are in this business now. They've tried and failed. They are in this business now. They are only riding on our sentiments, and they know it. They are riding on the sentiments of the citizens who are shouting and shouting that they are suffering. That's the sentiment they are riding on their own. What do they have now? What kind of opposition? What's their strength? Who is the strength that they have there, apart from Atiku? Who is also probably even depleted because he has run this race over and over again. So who is there? Who is there? Who is there that we don't have their records? So what's strong about the opposition?
You don't say anything about
opposition, each and every one of them, they are not strong. They are not strong. Collectively, they are not even strong. But the gullible citizens are strong. That is what the ruling party should be scared of. The gullible citizens, they are strong and they are in huge numbers. Very, very gullible. No sense of, I don't know, common sense, they. Let me just put it like that. No common sense. So once they feel that, like Esau, something is happening in their bowels they need to attend to, they just do whatever it takes. And assuming this government is even voted out in court, the situation will not change. It will not translate into free food on anybody's table. It will not translate into, look, the issues that even disturb us are not even issues for the presidency. For example, before we started, we complained about data.
Yes, we did.
I was trying to make calls yesterday. The calls were not connecting, as if from the other end, the person blocked me. Meanwhile, it's appearing there as a flash.
Right.
I buy Airtel router, smart box, and all of that. I have 3. Sometimes for days, they are not working.
I think as citizens, we don't ask for too much, just the basics.
And these basics, we are the ones that are to ensure it. What is NCC doing? What is NBC doing? We are the ones that should ensure them. And we are not doing anything about it. And then we expect that a man, that man, His Excellency, Bola Tinubu, he will finish and go. Whether 2027 or 2031, another person will come. We will still face these issues. They are with us. But because we lack sincerity, and those guys know we don't even like the truth, they know we don't like ourselves. So they bond. It's easy for them, for one person to live here and join here and be comfortable. Ordinarily, it should not be easy for you to drop the toga of a party you have been wearing for long for another party. There should be some form of ideological and emotional attachment to it if what you are doing is real. But it's not there. Somebody joined the party last month, has joined another one today, and is moving to another one tomorrow. And then we want even the president to even panic. Why should he even be disturbed? Because these same people that are shouting and here and there, they know. Sometimes small this thing now, they are distracted.
But individuals, we've heard, they said we're tilting towards a one-party state. How true do you think that is, in your own opinion now, as a legal practitioner?
Oh God. Yes, by law, there is no one-party state.
Okay.
Strictly speaking, we have several parties, maybe 20 or even more than. Now we have some basic parties: APC, ADC, NDC. Recently, PRP has been very vocal. Labour Party is there. So there can be an issue of a one-party state. But you see, the problem is, once somebody carelessly makes a comment and people feel that that comment satisfies their bias, they pick an app on it. Even ADC alone, it is impossible with the ADC that is on ground now, by the time they resolve their dispute and if God gives them common sense, they remain together. It will be impossible for any party to say, oh, we are the biggest. And the president is aware. I'm very sure that man is not even acting as if he's in power and he has an advantage. That's the funny thing about it. How do I know? Just before their convention, all stakeholders held a meeting in Lagos. 3 days summit. Maybe that was where these ones borrowed their idea of summit from and were busy speaking violence in Ibadan. They sat down and discussed and reached consensus. Because you see that party, the problem in that party, that APC, is even more than what people are seeing in ADC. But the difference is they are managing it.
Structure.
They are avoiding anything that will create too much implosion. There will be implosion. We will soon begin to see.
Ultimately.
So they spent that 3 days, reached certain understanding and agreement, and then came for the convention and then did their thing quietly, and everybody went. Just yesterday or day before yesterday, the man summoned the governors again because he has started hearing the complaints of people with respect to imposition of gubernatorial candidates here and there. And he told them, go back. Try to reach a consensus. If it is impossible to reach, please, by all means, conduct primaries. Look at ADC. Quarrel. The national executive was imposed. The zonal executives were imposed. States, we are imposing. There is quarrel. There is no state that will do that you will not hear quarrel from. And then we want to sit down and blame and say, oh, somebody is marching through. That man is G3 itself more than what even people assume, the president. But he converts his own to strength. He doesn't talk much. He thinks through and carries out his strategy. He was in the position that Atiku was at some point in time. What did he do? He waited. That man contested presidential elections once. Once in his lifetime. He didn't do it twice. And he won. In fact, people used to say, oh, he has never lost an election. But you see, if you do, it was Leto Kadibo that said politics is arithmetic. It's scientific. If you do your research very well and you are truthful to yourself, you will know when you will win and when you will not win. You will know.
Incidentally, it's also arithmetic, scientific. That's we have exhausted the much time that
we have.
But you have brought so much of brilliance and clarity to this conversation. That much you cannot take away. We are grateful to you, Barrister.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
For
so
taking
much.
time